Okay, guys, guess what? This is our last section of notes for the muscle system. Yay! This set of notes is about muscle regeneration and aging. So we're going to look at how muscles develop and how they get older, and also what happens if they get damaged. Grab your notebook, write this down on the right-hand side, and let's get busy. Your essential question for today is: describe how each type of muscle heals or regenerates after injury. All right, we need to finish up our discussion on smooth muscle that we started last time. So this is a continuation of that before we get into the regeneration part. Smooth muscle, guys, contracts slowly and it lasts longer. That gives us that peristalsis that we talked about with our intestines as well as in our blood vessels. In smooth muscle, there are no transverse tubules and there's very little sarcoplasmic reticulum. Calcium flows in from the outside, so it's part of the extracellular fluid. And calmodulin replaces troponin. So the protein troponin does not exist in smooth muscle. The calcium ion binds to the calmodulin, which turns on an enzyme, which is like a myosin-like chain kinase that phosphorylates the myosin head so that contraction can occur. And when the myosin and actin bind together, remember, the smooth muscle contracts in like a helical fashion that kind of just squishes and twists together. All right, and this enzyme, this kinase, works slowly, slowing the contraction. All right, it's not a real fast contraction like we saw in skeletal muscle, and even faster with cardiac muscle. Smooth muscle tone. In a previous lecture, we did say that smooth muscle does have muscle tone. Okay, it has to. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to sustain blood pressure as well as some of the other functions that we have. Calcium ion moves slowly out of the cell, and its delayed reaction provides for a state of continued partial contraction. So there's a sustained long-term contraction. It's useful for blood pressure, steady pressure on the contents of your GI tract as well as in your bladder. All right, this is just an example of showing bladders in females versus males. Okay, and then we've got an example of how your bladders will sustain that contraction, so we can eliminate all of the contents in our bladder at one time when we go to the restroom. Regulation for contraction is due to nerve signals from your autonomic nervous system in smooth muscle. And it also changes local conditions such as your pH, oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, temperature, and ionic concentrations. Hormones can also change our contractions in our smooth muscle, such as epinephrine, which relaxes muscle and airways and some blood vessels. The stress relaxation response. When stretched, smooth muscle initially contracts and then the tension decreases to what is needed. To stretch our hollow organs, they are going to stretch as they fill, and they're going to maintain fairly constant pressure. So for example, your stomach. As you eat a huge meal, it's going to stretch. Your stomach is going to stretch as it fills up. But the pressure on the walls of your stomach is going to maintain relatively a constant pressure, okay? And then whenever your stomach empties into your small intestine, the muscles are going to rebound, and then it's going to get more firm. Skeletal muscle in regeneration, as we discussed a long time ago when we first looked at skeletal muscle fibers do not go through mitosis after the first year, so they cannot divide after the first year. What happens is there's an enlarged growth of the existing cells. And for repair, if there's tissue damage, satellite cells and bone marrow produce some new cells and just kind of patch them together. And if there's not enough numbers of cells, fibrosis will occur. Okay, fibrosis is like an extension of that connective tissue, and it's going to be scar tissue on your skeletal muscle. Cardiac muscle fibers cannot divide or regenerate. Your heart is what you have. It is what it is. And all of the healing is done in the heart by fibrosis, which is scar formation. That's why whenever somebody has to have open heart surgery, the tissue around the heart has been damaged because of poor diet or whatever, and the healing that took place was fibrosis, scar tissue. And after that happens, your heart doesn't work properly, so if it gets bad enough, open heart surgery is necessary. Okay, regeneration for smooth muscle fibers. It is possible. Your smooth muscle fibers can grow. They can grow in size, which is called hypertrophy. They can divide, such as the cells in the uterus. That's called hyperplasia. And some new smooth muscle fibers can form from stem cells in your bowel walls. Okay? The muscular system, we talked about this a long time ago, is given rise from a dividing embryo. This would be shortly after the zygote phase, and we have this is a multicellular thing, giving rise to the nervous system and the somite. Okay, and then we're seeing here muscles of your head and limbs develop from your general mesoderm, and somite formation is the blocks of mesoderm that give rise to your vertebra and your skeletal muscles of your back. All right, that's what the somites do. All right, as we get older, something that's going to happen to all of you, hopefully. By the time you reach the age of 30, your skeletal muscle starts to be replaced by fat. That's why that magical age of 30 usually leads to a weight gain. Okay, so oftentimes you're going to see where adults are either going to use their muscles, get into great shape and stay there, or they're going to lose it and probably gain some weight in the form of fat. Aging is going to give us a slowing of reflexes and a decrease in maximal strength. So oftentimes as we get older, we're not as quick to be able to respond or react to different things, and also we're not as strong as we used to be. Have you ever wondered why your mom needs help opening different jars that the lids just screw off? It's because she's not as strong as she used to be. I've got the same problem with our back door. I have to use both hands to get it open. It's ridiculous. Okay, another thing is there's going to be a change in fiber type to slow down your oxidative fibers, and it may be due to a lack of use or just as a result of aging. All right, guys, that concludes our notes for the muscular system. Yay! It's been a long ride. We've been working on this system for a month and a half now, almost. I guess it's only a month. We are going to take a test next week over this stuff. Make sure you have your notebook up to date. There's a review ready for you to work on this week. And hey, I'll see you in class.